Hey folks, back with another video. Let's dive into what stories got my attention. Military officers who overthrew the Mali's government in a coup have pledged to restore order and will oversee the transition to an election over a reasonable period. Mali's President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita resigned as we as I covered yesterday and dissolved the parliament, effectively at a gunpoint. Now, the military claims that they took action to prevent Mali from going further into chaos. Now, the international community immediately condemned the coup and rightly are worried about possible spillover effects into neighboring countries. Now, part of me is happy that the army has announced the coming of elections, but I have to make a point that I am completely against coup of any kind. Now, it would have been better if the army remained out of politics. They could have done it through back channels, they could have convinced the leaders that the situation is getting out of hand and they need to do some bold actions, but they chose to commit the bold action themselves. Anyhow, moving on. Another country is slowly descending into chaos. Now, I had suspected that the protesters would push their luck. However, the question is what should we do and what we shouldn't do? I would suggest that we should use our diplomats to pressure the Belarus government to address the concerns of the protesters. However, we must also ensure that we do not do anything rash or intervene in their domestic politics covertly. We must pressure the government to allow peaceful protest and take any necessary action, and we must allow the Belarus government to take any necessary action to prevent any rioting. We must also not pick sides in their domestic politics unless a side has clearly become harmful by, one side committing riots and the government committing harsh crackdowns. Now we must be clear in our message, and all our institutions must remain unison in our mission. We must tell both the Belarus people and their government that we will be keeping an eye on them and will be looking closely into the situation. And I think that's some of the things that I would recommend that we in the West should do with respect to Belarus. Moving on, it seems the current strategy to counter the Chinese Communist Party is to decouple. Now, Taiwan is tightening its rule regarding investment from mainland China. Now, Taiwan's new rule impacts those companies that have links to the Beijing government, the political party, or the military. Now, Taiwan is tightening the screws to impact the top leaders as directly as possible. Now, I think that the decoupling is good, and we need to invest in other countries that share our values more, and that we could help those especially more. We can we must do all we can to strengthen our economies, especially now in the current environment. However, we must make sure to prevent ourselves from going too far. Point in Another thing is that the rule will come into effect, I believe, by the end of this year or early next year. Moving on a little further north into Japan, one Japanese lawmaker has raised concern about TikTok and national security. Now, various intelligence agencies have alleged that TikTok has shared user data with the Chinese Communist Party, or they can if ordered to by the Chinese Communist Party. Now, however, I would say that I need solid evidence of such concerns to be valid. However, it seems that the government can't ban the app outright, and so are trying to find an alternative to deal with the situation. I guess there will be more news emerging as time passes by on this. And finally, the US President Donald Trump will seek to restore all nuclear sanctions on Iran. Now, the Secretary of State Mike Pompeo will formally request the UN to impose sanctions on Iran, I believe next Thursday. Now, the path is difficult. Various countries and various powers, including our allies, have said that this was not something that they would like to go with. However, President Trump made a vow that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, despite the fact that there has been allegations against Iran of developing a nuclear weapon within 6 to 3 years since the 1980s, and till now they still have not made a nuclear weapon. So, what do you think? Write in the comments below. That's it for this video. If you like the video, then hit that like button and hit that subscribe button for future updates. I will see you in the next video.